It's time for Kaufman Stigger FAQ.
Welcome back. I am rejoined by Marshall Kaufman of Kaufman and Stigger Injury Lawyers. And here's what we're talking about today. Okay, we all know school is back in session. We're all busy, or you're in your car, you're trying to make it to work on time, maybe you have an appointment. With that being said, you may be in a school zone. So now is the time to be safe and be smart. Marshall's going to talk a little bit about this. Okay, school zone safety driving. This does not just apply to the kiddos and the teenagers who are in school, the teachers, etc. This is all of us, right, Marshall?
Without question, John. I mean, one of the most dangerous things for children is their exposure to automobiles and being hit by a car. And when you have areas where there's a lot of children, such as school zones, it's even more important for drivers to exercise even more caution. When you're driving, you need to be aware of school zones. You need to be aware of the signs that require you to reduce speed. And even though that speed is reduced, that doesn't mean you necessarily need to be going that fast. Under certain conditions, you want to slow down even more. When you see children in areas, when you see that school card out there, because children, especially when school is going on, they'll be playing with their friends, or they may be playing games, and there's unfortunately been occasions where kids are horsing around and they'll forget where they are and run out in front of a car, and if you're not paying attention, it can just have a tragic result.
You're exactly right. Anything can happen in a school zone. Okay, let's talk about if you have a teenager who is now currently driving to school. As a parent, what is your obligation, what is your responsibility to teach them?
Well, you know, number one, I would recommend that they have a safe driving course before they get their license. And I would also teach them to make sure that when you're doing this, that what bad can happen, because teenagers have a tendency to think they're invincible and that their actions don't have any causative effect or can't harm someone else. And it's really important in today's climate with cell phones and texting, because that's one of the most dangerous things out there that we see accidents caused by teenagers, not only teenagers but adults, but texting and driving or talking on the phone and driving, because when you're in these school zones or when you're areas with children on either walking or on their bicycles, it doesn't take a second for a teenager to look down at a text or read it or return it. And then, as we talked about earlier, a child can come out in front of them or appear and they're not expected, and it's just a terrible result.
Okay, for the moms and dads who are watching, and perhaps your child isn't yet of driving age, however, you've got these pick-up and drop-off zones.
Right.
Now, I would think those are critical zones. You've got to have all your senses working during that time, right, Marshall?
Without question, and a lot of these zones are where buses stop to get children, John, and what happens very often, and unfortunately I've had cases like this, children are used to, when they're on a school bus, when they get off the bus, and that arm comes down to stop, not only do the drivers have to be aware and pay close attention to that and stop, but you need to also teach your children that when you're crossing in front of that bus, even though that bar is down, to look before you cross, because if someone is texting or talking on the phone and not paying attention, they may not see that drop bar. So it's very important to teach your children when they're crossing in front of a school bus to look and make sure what they're doing. One other issue is if your children ever have to ride public transportation, such as TARC or other things like that. Sometimes they're conditioned when they get off a bus that it's safe for them to run in front of the bus and cross the street. And there have been tragic cases where kids have gotten off a TARC bus and run in front thinking that traffic stopped, but it's not, because TARC buses don't have that stop bar. And then terrible things can happen.
Yes, everything you say makes perfect sense, because I've been around a school when they let out, and it's like all these kids, one, they're excited to get out of school, they're doing things, they're not really watching or paying attention, they're gathering around either public transportation or their school bus, whatever, they've got parents coming in at the same time. So in other words, there's a lot of things going on, right? Think.
There's a lot of activity, and it never hurts you to go slow. I mean, and be cautious. And again, I can't emphasize enough to pay attention, to look out ahead. And another thing you can teach your teen drivers in the wintertime, when don't go out and start driving with frost on your windshield, or when it's raining, to slow down. Anything that affects their visibility, if it's dark outside during the period of time when school is letting in or out, just make sure that you have good visibility in your car and that you don't drive when you can't see clearly out in front of you.
Great information. Marshall, again, thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
And again, it's Kaufman and Stigger Injury Lawyers. Kaufman and Stigger Injury Lawyers. There's the information on your screen. You might want to put this on your refrigerator. You never know when you need it. There's the website as well. We'll be right back on Wave 3 Listens.